You're tuned into The Collective Voice, thought-provoking interviews co-hosted by young adults, fostering deep faith through courageous questions. Welcome to the conversation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Collective Voice podcast. I'm Reverend Cece Suknak-Sonye, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host and supervisor and, I don't know, deacon in UMC, Reverend Phil Dickey. How else should we introduce Cardinals baseball fan?
Look, I am, and they're actually playing right now, but it's fine. I'm not going to watch. I'm here.
I'm not going to watch, for sure.
I don't have it on. If I keep looking, I'm just kidding. It's not on. I do love Cardinals baseball, but fun story. Our guest today, that's the last time we really got to hang out a lot, was in St. Louis for a conference that we were both at last summer, the Justice and Joy conference that was put on for college or for campus ministers. There was like 200 campus ministers there from the PCUSA, the ELCA, and the Episcopal Church. And that was just really a cool place to be at. But Reverend Carter Grant is the associate pastor at University Presbyterian Church in Austin, Texas, and also the director of the Ukirk at University of Texas. And so she wears multiple hats, as many of us do. Can I go ahead and say you're a Cardinals fan too? You love baseball too, right? I just feel it. You're a huge Cardinals fan, Carter.
Love baseball, and I have been to multiple Cardinals games.
There we go. At Busch Stadium? Look at you. See, you might as well be a Cardinals fan. No, Carter has been on the pod before with some of the young adults from UPC, and we chatted early on. Like, you were one of the first episodes we had, talking about the sense of belonging with young adults find in a local church and what that looked like. And just remember a really good conversation in the midst of that. But we wanted to bring you back just because, here we are year and a half later or so, and a lot has changed in the world. And you're still in your position, but also you're in the midst of transition because you just got engaged. This is like a theme. Our last guest also just got engaged, so flash that bling. Absolutely. Yes. But yeah, ultimately, we wanted to bring you back to be in conversation around what it's like being a young adult in ministry, and recognizing that, again, we just said you kind of wear two different hats as both the Ukirk, what I'll let you explain what Ukirk is, and then kind of like what your job entails at Austin, or at University Presbyterian in Austin, and then just whatever else biographically you want to share.
Well, thank you, Phil, and nice to meet you, Cece. Thanks for having me. So Kirk means church. Has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. I want to be extremely clear about that. I've been getting that question.
Have you really?
We have.
Oh, wow.
In this day and age.
Dumbfounded. Yeah, I know. And I hadn't even heard of that man until everything happened. It was horrible. So nothing to do with that. Just making that clear. Kirk means church in Scottish. And we as Presbyterians hail back to Scotland with our heritage. And so Ukirk means it's your church. So it's University Church or your church. That's what I like to say. Yeah. It's fun. So Ukirk Austin. So I came in almost 3 years ago now, which is really flying by. So I think actually it's been like almost 3 years since we had that podcast. Like definitely over 2 years.
Wow.
I know. And so I was hired to kind of reinvigorate and restart the program and just try a lot of new things and throw things against the wall and see what sticks. And the students have just been fantastic. And they've been such amazing co-creators and co-conspirators and doing awesome things at UT. Yeah.
And then what's your role as associate pastor? What's that entail at University Pres?
It is a generalist position.
Other duties as assigned?
Yeah. No, it's all good stuff. Like, what I really like about this role, and Ukirk is very much part of what is happening at UPC, because the physical space for Ukirk, as well as the endowment that supports Ukirk, is all a part of University Presbyterian. It's like I wear 1.5 hats, depending on the day. But here at UPC, I am really blessed to work with people of all different ages, all the time, work with youth and with kids, with people near the end of their lives and everything in between. Work with our deacon ministries, work with our fellowship. A lot of cool stuff. Just a lot of like really interesting things where I get to equip people and just kind of discover their gifts with them and walk alongside them. And there's a lot of joys and challenges to that. So yeah.
In ministry? What?
I can't believe it.
I know. What was your path to ministry? Like, when did you kind of know that? You don't have to give you a whole call story or whatever, but like what was your kind of sense of like, yeah, I think I want to pursue this?
Okay, so you've probably met some people that have a burning bush moment, right? like in the Exodus story. I have burning twig moments in my life where things just lined up in a way that only explained by the Holy Spirit working in my life. And just right a little bit out of college, I called my Ukirk pastor because I had a Ukirk, a Presbyterian campus ministry, when I was in college at the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks! And I called him and said, I think you're still looking for an intern. Can I come back and be your intern? And then since then, towards really listening to this call from God, so many doors have been opened, so many things have fallen into place. And it's not always easy. I'm not always super, I feel like I've been really more content, but that doesn't always mean happiness, but it means that I feel really confident in myself. I feel really like I'm doing something that is meaningful, that I'm called to. And that has been really sustaining me ever since paying attention to this call. So yeah, did some Ukirk work, did some youth ministry work, then I went to seminary, and this is my first call out of seminary.
What was that transition like coming from, because you're in Princeton, right? So you're in New Jersey, moving from Princeton to Austin is a pretty substantial move. So, again, the last episode you were on, we talked about young adults moving into the church and finding belonging there. What about you as a pastor? What was that really like for you moving in? And in some ways you have a built-in belonging, but it's also your job. So how did that pan out for the last 3 years?
Yeah. And that's something I'm still trying to, I hate to say perfect. I'll never perfect it. Right. But
balance,
I'm trying
even.
to move on that. Yeah. Trying to find the flow there. Because what I'm doing in my professional capacity is inherently other people's personal capacity. And in my pastoral capacity, it's their personal capacity. So it's kind of interesting. I definitely gotten better with that, where I've been intentional about finding friends outside of the church community. But also it's really cool that there's really blessed here in Austin that there's a good amount of church nerds and Presbyterian nerds like me that aren't part of this specific community. So made friends with actually a lot of other young adults that have been on this podcast before. That I just know they'll post about it, whatever. I'm like, oh wait, I know that person. So that's pretty sweet.
This collective voice bringing people together. I love that. That's good.
Then you go, yes. Well, it is you are collecting us. Yeah, but that's been good. But honestly, coming here was such a breath of fresh air. To Austin and to UPC, but seminary was very formative, very transformative, and very difficult. I do not want to live in a place that doesn't have sun for a while. It was really hard. And then also COVID happened when I was in seminary, so that wasn't super fun. So it's kind of awesome that I get to start over, but also have all these people that have that Presbyterian nerd and the history there, right? That we have this collective understanding and history and yeah, it's that that's been really great. Even though I just came in, but I feel things have been preparing for me for years before I got here. Yeah,
that's so wonderful and beautiful. Also, apologies for those that are joining this via YouTube. I turned my camera off. The seminary Wi-Fi and I have been fighting for weeks. Phil knows my gripe.
No good Wi-Fi in Austin. What's happening in the world here?
Well,
Elon's taking it all. Is that a thing?
I think specifically here in the basement of our office building. But similar to you, I went to seminary in Chicago, native Austinite, love Texas, some parts of Texas, but really shaped by almost 300 days of sun, the hill country here, and then going to a very flat place that experiences all the seasons that are cold and gray and snowy. It was a rough transition. So coming home was a breath of fresh air. Speak to us a little bit about what it's like to dwell in Austin, which is a college town turned wannabe big city. I'll say it like that. It's not really fully a big city, but it's not really a college town anymore. But you probably enter that space in a different way than most people do, since part of your work is with Ukirk.
Oh yeah, I love it. So because I went to the University of South Carolina, which is a big flagship institution, so much of the experience here that I'm vicariously experiencing through my incredible students reminds me of my college experience. being a big state school, and now it's SEC. And so that is kind of, I feel like part of this calling is that I can walk alongside these young people knowing that I've really been in a similar situation to them, because going to a big school with the challenges and joys are really just like the hard decisions they have to make socially with drugs and alcohol and in relationships. Those are really in a big school like this, but also as the city gets larger, they have to think about, where am I being called in my vocation? There's these big, companies. I mean, not so much now. Some of them have like left, but especially during COVID, a lot of these giant companies came and they could get 6 figures right after college, which is great for them. But where do we think of spiritually, a spiritual practice? How do we use that money? How do we continue being in the church? Because a lot of them stay here in Austin. So I get to walk alongside them in college and then say, well, you're not done with me yet, because, hey, I'm here with the young adult ministry in UPC, sorry. So there's a lot of good questions that come up with being in this town, but a lot of really great opportunities that if God is bringing all these people here, we have to see this. We have to see this as opportunity, as like, and how the Spirit is working in these people. I hope that answers your question. Wait, I can't hear you.
Phil, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. Rookie. Such a rookie move. Jeez.
I thought I was going to do that.
I mean, ridiculous. Curious about those young adults who do graduate out of college. And I don't know if you have percentages, but are a lot of the students at Ukirk kind of integrated into the life of UPC, or a lot of them going to other churches, and do a lot of them find a home at UPC? Like, what is like kind of their belonging, their faith community? What are they finding after they graduate?
Yeah, it's good. Really good question. So while they're here as students, the vast majority are I think they're pretty involved, especially for like compared to stats on this age group nationally. I could consider them pretty heavily involved with the church at UPC. There's a few that might do Ukirk stuff and then be involved with other churches, but like that's a very small number. And they're like churches that are right here around campus too. We're all friends, and we're all good. We're all really good counterparts. So I mean, definitely there's a dip right after they graduate, and it's like, oh, my friends also left. Yeah, there's a little bit of attrition. And then in that year or so afterwards, I just try to be really intentional about inviting them into specific things to do at UPC, or maybe with other Presbyterian churches. Sometimes it's hard when you show up as a freshman and at UT, and you come to UPC, and all these people have seen you grow up from a freshman to be a senior, or like some of them like grew up as youth here. A few of them grew up as youth here at the church, and then they went to UT. You don't want to go to a church where everyone saw you like when you were that young. I kind of get that. So maybe I'll point them in the direction of other like Presbyterian churches. I hope that answers your question. I think.
I like the explanation almost about how it's a networking center, right? Or like a collaborative connecting center. And I think there's a lot to be said about church as a way to bridge ministries or connect ministries or partner. I'm sure we've seen colleagues that don't do that very well, right? Like who think you need to come to my church, or thinking about the insecurity, right? Of, well, if we lose people, we lose dollars, we lose programming. But the space that campus ministry especially can dwell in to connect and know, like at this season of your life, yeah, your home church was nourishing and wonderful, but now you want to spread your wings in a way that you can't here. Did you have an experience like that yourself, or maybe like your transition here to Texas? It sounds like a new state, a new place to live in, letting you have an opportunity to put your feet on the ground in a way maybe that was different when you went to intern back at the Ukirk you went to?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And it's something that I reflect on, often. Well, it's funny. The fun thing that came to my mind when you had this really good question. It's funny that sometimes we or I do this too, but I think it's like logical to think, oh, we're losing someone. We will lose the cash, or we'll lose the seat in the pew. Honestly, it's not like our Ukirk students are raking in the dollars while you're in college. So it's like, whatever. So that's never a concern at all. Well, actually, what I tell the congregation where I invite them to consider is that we are kind of playing like for the Presbyterian Church, and we are not doing this whole Ukirk thing, Ukirk Austin, for the purpose of building up UPC. That might be a nice benefit, but that is for sure not the driving goal. That is not the why. And so actually, especially if they end up moving outside of Austin, right, that's out of our control. And we would love for them to spread their wings and share the gospel everywhere else. But if they're here in Austin, I do try to get to your question, Cece, like try to explain that in all these different parts of their lives, they need different communities and different seasons of their life. And that's right. And that we can rejoice that y'all were an amazingly transformative, impactful community for them while they were in college, but it might just look a little different for them now. I mean, sometimes part of like my pettiness might be that like I try to like keep them within the PCUSA fold. I'll try to do that. Okay, that's my first. That's one of my first goals.
You can have loyalty. That's okay. Yeah.
I mean, so I'm just saying. I have to be a denominationalist, and so if we, if that doesn't work, I'm happy to find them UMC, ELCA. Those are great. Those are wonderful options. But yeah, I feel like to answer the second part of your question, there were some struggles for sure when I was like the Ukirk intern in South Carolina, and my supervisor, the pastor there, was really helpful in helping me form those boundaries, and that's been such a gift to me still, because everyone's got to learn that. And so I just had in my first part of my call, like one of my first jobs in ministry, I had to learn that really and be really strict about that. And so having that difficulty early on taught me so much. And now I'm probably too much of a hardliner with boundaries and like that, of like figuring, friends versus not friends and friends versus church friends and stuff like that. So.
Well, I also just have to jump in there and say, as a young woman who's a pastor, you have to navigate that, or at least my experience as being a young woman pastor is how I navigate that versus even like my best friend from seminary, who's like probably one of the greatest pastors I know, but a guy. It's just a different thing too. So yeah, thanks for your answer and your honesty. And I love the cross ecumenical relationships, right? Like Carter went to a conference for campus ministers put on kind of by the ELCA alongside of ecumenical partners, met friends of mine in the Gather network, like knows people from Gather Austin. So maybe we'll get a little bridge there with some PCUSA, ELCA connections, knowing we all love our traditions. But we
can also learn from them. Like I told CC before we started recording, I am so jealous of what the Gather network is doing, and I would love if the Presbyterian Church would get its act together like that. But you know what? It's not a competition ever, and so we can join them. So I send like the Gather Austin Instagram people all the time when they graduate. So
makes me so happy.
Collective voice, collective community,
collecting people.
Ecumenical. Let's do it.
Well, can we just talk for a second here too about, I think it used to be, I don't know, my mind goes to the 50s. I wasn't alive then. I know it's surprising to some people, but I was not alive then. But it used to
Can't believe it, Phil. Can't believe it.
I know. Calm down. It kind of used to be there was like people would like believe their way into belonging, like, so you held a certain belief around something and that's why you were Methodist or why you were Presbyterian or whatever. And that's where you end up then finding it. But I don't know that that's true anymore for a lot of young people, where they're actually belonging their way into belief instead, I think is what I'm seeing more and more. Is that what you're finding to be true for people?
Totally. Absolutely. And I would even challenge the notion that it was ever like that before.
That's probably true. Yeah.
These people went to, in the 50s, I mean, we love to say like the 50s is this like this zenith of society and everything was amazing. You could get a house for $1 after with just like a high school diploma, whatever. So everything was great then, but also you couldn't talk to people of the opposite sex unless you were at the church, basically. Unless you went to like a sock hop at the church, right? There's a lot of other like
Sock
cultural.
Bring
I know.
the sock hop back, yeah.
There's a pastor here that literally told me that I used to go to church camp because I could meet women there. Basically, I shouldn't have said. Anyways, he won't see this. So
Some random pastor that you know from some other place.
Random pastor who happens to be older and a male. You'll never figure out who that is. But so I mean, were they believing their way into church, or was it a sense of community, and was it a place where you could find, whether the like-minded people or just like other people to be around? So, but I think I agree with what you're saying, Phil. It's totally what's happening in our generation now, for sure.
Maybe here's another easy bridge, and I apologize for if I jumped in weird, like my audio is still being weird. Thanks, seminary Wi-Fi. Where are you finding communities of belonging? Where are you finding, it sounds like you had some really formative places, and then maybe this is not your experience, but my experience when I started working in churches, and especially when I was like the pastoral intern and ordained as clergy, it just shifted my sense of belonging, right? So how are you finding that in your life here? Oh,
this is something I can definitely like improve on. And we talked about this even before we started recording of I stalk the Gather Austin Instagram, but I think I'm too old for it, so I count myself out for it, or it's hard to put yourself out there. So I found that I was really, really blessed my first year here that I found this small cohort, but also young women pastors, and they've since all moved to different locations, but I keep up with them. But like that was huge for me my first year or so. I have some friends from college who happen to live here. Like I'm really, really lucky that I live that Austin draws people in from other places. And so I actually find that I'll hang out with people that are not church people like at all, but I will unabashedly say like what I do for a living. And that creates like so many cool, some not cool conversations, some awkward conversations, but a lot of really cool and enlightening conversations where people can get a little glimpse of like, wait, what can church be like if this really fun, hot lady is leading a church? Whoa. So I just feel like, so hopefully that answers part of your question, but also been leaning on the wider, like PCUSA network as well. Literally just calling other churches and saying, do you have young adult ministries? Maybe we can get them together. So I started getting some churches together every month or so. And that's been, there's ebbs and flows to that, but that's been like really life-giving too. And my dog's helpful as well. He gives me a lot of community. So I'm definitely, if you have any recommendations in Austin, let me know. But that's something I've been trying to work on.
I'm making like a mental list of my friends here who are young women clergy. It's like, maybe we need to do a collective thread, Bill, just here, just me. Or like I'm 29, and so I don't know how old you are, but Gather goes up until 35. Shameless plug, always for Gather Austin, but you're always welcome there if you want to try it out. I hear that though. It's hard to put yourself out there. One of the first episodes we recorded this year with my friend Owen, who you also might have met at Justice and Joy, Owen Copps.
He's a Seminary Southwest, right?
Yes, he is. Yeah. Yes, he is. He's one of the most outgoing, like vivacious people I know, and his invitation was like almost the Nike "just do it." But we know that can be really hard to put yourself out there. So we're sending you all of our courage, Carter. I'm glad that you have those spaces, especially if they're outside of ministry, because then you don't have to show up as a pastor. You can show up as Carter.
That would be really cool. I need more of that in my life. But I also think when you were saying that, Cece, like I also think about, I'm so privileged that I can walk into pretty much any church, especially a mainline denomination, and feel really comfortable and make a community for myself. For a lot of people our age, that's just not like a possibility. And so we talk about like, there's so many stats out there with the loneliness epidemic with our generation, or well, I'm more on the millennial side, but I guess the more the Gen Z generation too. And I just, there is still that bridge that needs to be made. And I would love to be more a part of that. And that's on my more pastoral professional side. but I try, in my personal life, like I was saying, mentioning things like this and with my like non-churchy friends, which I love. Yeah, I think there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of the Spirit is trying to do there. But I appreciate your encouragement, and I want to give that encouragement to other people too,
I love this. I love the ecumenical notion of it, and just well, I know we each come from a different denomination, but I think that's the beauty of this, right? Is that there's commonality here and we can find shared experience in the midst of that. But like you said earlier, it doesn't have to come at the expense of the beliefs we have, the convictions we have, like that can just enrich the conversation and the community that we build out of that. And I'm wondering, like, if most young adults and people in general probably are belonging into belief rather than believing in belonging, what are some of the things that are really uniting people around, whether it's belief and whether that's like a theological belief, or whether it's just kind of a general sense of like, the world is this way and I don't love it, or the world is this way and I do love it, or, what are the things that you're seeing that young adults are really caring about right now? And it usually happens at least once in an episode where I ask you to tokenize all young adults. Or I ask our guests to. So you get to speak on behalf of all young adults right here.
There we go. The problem with all young adults is
those darn young people. They were just
I know.
buy their house for $1 and they'll be okay.
Great. Yeah, I know. Do we get a time machine? That's number one. And so again, I'm speaking for my specific context, very much the layers of academia and of an extremely liberal and large city and all the types of people that attracts, people I love. They just want to chill. They don't need to have another thing in their lives that forces them to think all the time or to have the weight of the world thrust upon them, because so many things in their lives from parents and grandparents and people at their work. And then for sure at church, they're like, you are the future young little bird and you have to figure everything out. And sorry, we have effed everything up. And also, good luck. Like, that's like most of their lives. So it's great when they can come to church and come to Ukirk, and especially like they can just be themselves. They don't have to produce anything. They don't have to have like an end goal for like the hour that they're in worship. So many of our students just say that's like the 1 hour a week, that actually they can be honest with themselves and that they feel like they are being able to connect to something that's bigger than them in a way that's not just asking more and more and more of them to produce and to perform. Like the one non-performative hour a week. And then we kind of extend that when we have other, Ukirk events and such. But what's really cool is that we'll have some Ukirk events where families will bring in home cooked food. And that's like such a great ministry that you get to eat home cooked food. You get to have vegetables like for the one time a week, basically. And then sometimes I get really nervous with the other generations mixing with them, but it's been working out really, really well, because that's now like we've invited these other generations into the space as they've created their Ukirk identity, and the other generations get to see, oh wait, this is actually what these students are experiencing. Are we stressing them out all the time? Can we stress them out less? So that's been a very new phenomenon, which I'm really grateful for. So that's my answer. Yeah.
So, and I mean, what does someone want more than to just be and to be enough and have a space where they can be poured into or not have to produce or overprogram? I was at my Senate Assembly, my region's annual gathering, and I had so many people come up and said, "Oh, you do young adult ministry? Like, can you get us some young adults in this initiative or that initiative? Or do you know anybody who might want to do this?" And I was just sitting there, and you can't see me because I'm not on camera, but like my stress level skyrocketed. Yes, I was exactly like that, Carter. Like, 1, people don't want that. 2, like, stop asking, because it almost like puts something on someone else before you ever get to know them. Like I tokenize you as a young adult and don't let you actually speak to your experience. But when you say, hey, like, bring them some food and like ask them a question, they'll get to speak to that experience. I'm a big proponent of actually churches need to do less. I know that's really not popular, But
For sure.
right.
Deprogram that space.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm grateful that that's something you recognized in your ministry and gift to your students, because how often are they expected to be over-programmed and over-busy, especially at a school like UT. When I interned at a campus ministry at UT, all those students were wildly busy.
They're all huge nerds. I love it. They came in with so much stress. They're all like the top of their class from high school. I mean, what is it, like only the top 6% of every high school in Texas gets in? I think it's like lower now. Yeah,
it might be lower now.
I think it's lower. I think it's like 5.5. So they're bringing in a whole lot already. And when we can just be in the space where we say, you know what, you didn't get the A or whatever, or like you messed up with this one thing. You're still alive. You're still here. We still like are in community together. And you're still a lot more to you. So yeah.
You can be that reminder. I mean, I remember calling my dad the first time I got a C on a test, and he said, Did you try your best, CC? Did you study as hard as you could? And I said, yeah, I did. He said, that's good enough for me. And I thought, okay, but I still need to get not a C in this class, Dad. So tell me then, Carter, how do you experience like this call to rest, this call to like enoughness, to be giving it to students? Is there a tension with like living it yourself? Is it a gift to live it yourself?
I feel personally vindicated by the reference EC. Yeah, it's definitely a huge issue. It's gotten a lot better. I've been so blessed to be engaged to a wonderful man who supports me and encourages me to get a lot of rest and to do things that are fun for both of us, particularly. So we'll go and play tennis. I've usually about once a week, and that's like so great. We did like an art class recently, and I think we want to do some more of those. I mean, it's a lot of cool stuff to do around here. Or like we made some, I've made some rules with his help for my own personal boundaries of, I didn't remove the Outlook application from my phone, but I moved it somewhere else and I don't get notifications when I get an email. Honestly, that's made a huge difference. And then I don't look at my work. I like my work Chrome after a certain hour in the evening. So that's really cool. But that accountability, because I was not doing that before I got this man in my life to help me out. It was not good. And I was loving it. I was loving everything I was doing, but that's God wants more for us there. I mean, God wants us to rest and just have that community. So yeah, I can take some more of my own medicine for sure. I can always get better at it. But having that accountability has been really good.
When I moved to Dallas, I was working at a church and knew one person in Dallas. And so I just worked all the time because it was what else am I going to do? And did not establish any sort of remote boundaries whatsoever. And so then, when we got engaged, I was like, wait, you want me to be home? What? That is what? You want to hang out with me regularly? This is weird.
Yeah.
It was a big adjustment for sure. Yeah. Okay. You have a "What Would Dolly Do" sign behind your head. And
I know. I was noticing that.
I love it so much. Would love to know who or what or where are you finding inspiration? In whom? Where do you turn to? And what are places that are inspiring inspiration in you right now?
Oh, I love that. Oh, thank you. It was what has been really great for me. I'm so blessed to be engaged and be in this season of my life, and I'm a very introspective, try to move very intentionally and slowly with relationships of many types. And I'm an 8 Enneagram, if that's relevant to you, challenger. So I always want to get to the next level of how compatible and how perfect can we be, and I am doing premarital counseling. So I'm leading premarital counseling for a couple that will get married here in June. That has been such an enormous inspiration for me recently, because I'm going through my old seminary notes of how do I do this again? What books, what resources can I use? And then that's been informing me and what I bring to my poor fiance as he has to deal with all these personality tests and all this craziness and bring it home. But that has been such a really good source of inspiration and creative energy for me and for my fiance. So especially don't know if I have the book here, but there's a book called Passionate Marriage, and it's like great. It's like, it is pretty wonky. It's not very Christian, but like that has been fascinating just this week, rereading that for the premarital counseling. So there's a lot of little things.
Is Passionate Marriage, is that what it's called?
Yeah, by David something with an S.
Cool. We'll link it.
Yeah. It's old. It's old. It's a little outdated, but met it. In seminary we read it. So,
kind of along the same lines of that question, I was in a meeting a couple weeks ago, and the like check-in question was, "What is a piece of media?" Like, I also noticed your "What would Dolly do?" and I'm inferring it's Dolly Parton, right? Like, what other Dolly would it be? I mean, no offense to other Dollys out there, but the question was something like, what is a piece of media, art, music, book, literature, poem, video game, etc., show that's influenced you in your life? I wonder, like, part of me like wonders that question, and then part of me wonders, like, of all this thing you can have directly behind you. I remember in COVID especially, people started like really noticing. It's like what's directly behind the altar, right, at a church, like where you constantly are looking. Like you have a cross being held up with a rainbow flag behind it, like that's super symbolic. You have some great commentaries, some that I have on my shelf, right? Like, and then what would Dolly do? So talk to us. I want to know specifically about that. And then if there's another piece of media that comes to mind that's like informed and shaped you, maybe it's a Dolly Parton song. I don't know.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I appreciate that. I have, I don't know if it's weird to like show around, but I got a few cool things. Like this is like one I found around the church, so that's classic. And then honestly, my office is full of interesting things. So I think there's a lot of value in not taking ourselves too seriously, especially in this season of humanity, where we as a church can be the one place that you're going back to, just being ourselves. Part of that is that we arrive here and we can take what we're doing in worship seriously, sure, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. So part of the what would Dolly do is like making fun of the old evangelical youth that I was at some point in my personal history, because we'd say, what would Jesus do? And flipping it on its head with, what would Dolly do? And Dolly's a queen. So she's not our savior, but she's a queen and she's great. I mean, that's part of it. So yeah, I think that's basically all of it. I just don't want to, I want, when people come into my office, there's a lot of color. I have like quilts on the wall my grandma made. I have a scrap quilt that's just random pieces of scrap fabric that weren't supposed to be in a quilt, but she made into something beautiful. And I found a lot of like beauty in that. I have a Gamecocks poster from my college. So there's just, I want people to feel like they can be silly, or I have toys out. I have like candy out because like kids and youth come by all the time, and I want them to feel like they can just chill. They annoy me sometimes when I'm sitting here in my office trying to like finish a sermon. They're like, "Can we come in and get candy?" So it works too well sometimes, but it's really nice that like people can come in and they know that they don't have to be like all prim and proper. Like, oh, we're in the pastor's office. Let's open our theology books. Like, we can talk about Dolly Parton. It's fine,
I love that. Also, Phil, I'm just noticing, like, again, a quilt comes up on this season of this podcast.
It's wild. So wild. Yeah. Like
I'll send a picture.
Do you actually do crafting? Like, do you do quilting or anything?
No, I'm not a very crafty person, but all the women in my family are, and I'm blessed by their craftiness.
I love that. Yeah. You mentioned rest, like the idea of rest and just chilling. I love that. You mentioned like not taking ourselves too seriously. If there was something else that you feel like the church could implement that would really be a benefit to young adults, like if like you could just change something about the church, and you could speak universal, you don't have to speak on behalf of UPC, just UPC here, right? I'm sure Matt's going to listen to this, so you don't have to throw you under the bus here, but just, like if you could wave a wand, right, and say like the church is different now in this way, what do you think it would be? Or what would you choose?
Oh, it's so big. And I want to answer this on a denominational level, which is like the most impossible way to wave a magic wand. Well, I mean, I think we need to invest everything on a denominational level, on a presbytery, which is our mid-council level, into campus ministry, campus and college ministry. That is the crux of when amazing things happen in our lives. And we look at I love statistics and stuff. I love gathering numbers, and I probably put too much faith in them, but a lot of the statistics we're seeing coming from youth groups of mainline denominations, specifically PCUSA, is that we are trying so hard to serve the needs of the youth, and I think we're doing it pretty well just by the number of like dollars we spend on it on a denomination, and with all the different like services and programs. But so few of those youth actually join the church later on, and that's not the point of youth group. That's not the total goal. We're seeing a bigger picture than that, but we're missing something here. We're not investing in we're talking a lot about bridges this time too. There is that bridge between being a youth and after college, or that whatever that college age, activity and experience is as young adults are. And if we miss that, that's just a huge missed opportunity, because you're finally what I was trying to say, the return on investment is way higher for Ukirk than it is for youth ministry as a whole, denominational level. And that's just like a super transformative time. And it's so many opportunities for growth. So I put a lot more time and effort into that. And that's part of my call here, and barely doing anything. I mean, I haven't really done even that much of building stuff. I've just taken things away and created space. The students just fill it, and they fill it with their gifts and their energy and their time and their love. And it's because they're we're meeting them at the exact right time in their lives for this to be really transformative. So yeah, I would do that. Put the money.
I love that so much. I did campus ministries work for a while, kind of the same way, at a local church that we ended up kind of taking over, acquiring the Wesley Foundation. It was a United Methodist church. And I was at the meeting where I was signed and the whole thing happened. And the bishop at the time of our conference said, for the last 40 years, we have handed college ministry to the evangelical church. And again, not that it's just a total competition, but there are ramifications for that, right? There are theological beliefs that play a role in the way society has developed around a lot of things, right? The Doug Wilsons of the world saying that women shouldn't have the right to vote. That's an impact. That's where theology matters, right? So it does matter in a lot of ways. But he said for the last 40 years, we've handed college ministry to the evangelical church, and this is our first time for the next 40 years to take a step to take it back. And I was yeah, that's really important. I agree. I think it's a huge time of life where so much is developing for young adults and just for people. I mean, yes, they are young adults, but just people in general. That's where so much is developing, and you're questioning, and you're creating your worldview in so many ways. So, amen. Just that was my long-winded way of saying amen.
Yeah, thanks. And I agree with everything you said. Yeah.
And it's a time of unlearning, right? In a time of deconstruction. And there's so many. You kind of alluded there, Carter, and I don't know if I had one of those myself. I mean, I grew up Lutheran, but I still remember people wearing the "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets. You yourself, it sounds had an evangelical background. And so I'm assuming, I don't know, you can tell us, the steps of perhaps a little bit of deconstruction with that to get to the place that you are now. Because there are people who grow up. I grew up in a tradition that has ordained women for over 50 years, right? And I had one woman pastor, associate pastor, who sometimes was not really treated super well. And so it wasn't until college that I had a female campus pastor who's one of the most brilliant and creative people I've ever met, that I thought, I could do that, right? I could do that. And we have someone that in our network who grew up with only women pastors, she says. She has the exact opposite experience. And so she went and met a male pastor, and she's like, men can do that? So it shows that representation.
Still one of my favorite stories.
I know, mine too. But it shows representation is so important. So I feel there's a question in there a little bit about your call to ministry, maybe out of one tradition and into another tradition, and maybe are you seeing some of that with your students with deconstruction or wondering or meaning making and questioning?
Oh, all the time. And my background is solely PCUSA, but PCUSA has been ordaining women in some way or shape or another for a very long time. I think literally since like the 50s. Before the PCUSA like even had the reunification in 1983. So
back in the 50s when everything was just hunky dory and golden. Yeah, okay,
right, exactly. When it was the golden age of women pastors in the 1950s. No, I mean, but I didn't have any female pastors growing up. But I think when I made that comment on being the evangelical youth, and have you seen those memes of like, sorry for what I said as an evangelical youth. I was definitely one of those kids for a bit. My dad was like our youth director. He's great, but the culture of Northern Florida, which is Southern Georgia culturally, there was just a lot in the waters with Christian nationalism, looking back, that's what it was, and evangelicalism in some not so healthy ways. And so I didn't learn anything like that at the church. My dad has amazing theology that I would sign up for right now after going to seminary. So I didn't really get it from the church. I got it from the culture around me. And so, but that goes to like what you were saying, Phil, of we have absolutely handed over all of this to other parts of the Christian diaspora. And I experienced that, when I was younger. But go back to your question, Cece, of what are our students bringing in? What are their experiences? I'd say at least 2/3 of our the students who come from, for lack of a better term, like church backgrounds. And they find us most of the time just because they're like, hey, church sounds like something that maybe I should try. So it goes back to the point of like, we're at a time in our lives where like we want to try all these different things in college. So like why church can be one of them, especially if I'm not churched when I, growing up. So they'll just find us like on Google. They search like church near me and we come right up because we are positioned. And that's part of our calling as a church. So we are positioned right here at the University of Texas. So, but they'll come through our doors, and it is such a blessing to be able to see with fresh eyes what we're doing, because we have these amazing young people that are like, all this is so new for them. Being not even just like the worship, which it is pretty traditional high church, but we don't take ourselves too seriously either. But just like, what can church community be? Like, how do these tendrils of the church community, how do they affect what's like around us, like physically, and where everyone else, lives from the church? How can we support each other outside of just Sunday morning? Like seeing the students like experience that of like, oh wait, the church can help me go pick up my medication because I don't have a car. The church can bring me to go to HEB because also I don't have a car, or, they can bring me food because I'm sick, or like, I mean, that's like totally eye-opening for them. I'm like, yeah, this is what community is. Like, I'm sorry you had to miss it for like the first 18 years of your life, but you got it now. Please stay, So, yeah.
So good. So good. So if folks are in Austin and they want to come find you, it's at University Presbyterian Church on, where's it at? Where's it located? I forget the street.
So we're San Antonio Street and 22nd, 2203 San Antonio.
Yeah, so just off the west side of campus, UT campus. Same for Ukirk. And y'all meet at the church, right? For Ukirk.
Correct. Yeah, we have like a little space on the one end of the church. Yeah,
I love it. Well, Carter, thank you for the ministry you do, and for I love that you're listening and being connected to other people through the collective. That's fantastic. But we're just grateful for the ministry you do, and would love to continue to support you in any way we can. But yeah, Cece, any final thoughts?
No, this is great. And truly, if you're in Austin, check out University Presbyterian, 20 minutes from the seminary. Check out Carter. She's doing good work. They're doing good work. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Collective Voice, the premier podcast of the 787 Collective. For more information, visit us at 787collective.org or find us on social media. And if you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to subscribe, rate us, and share a review. For when you do, you are tricking the algorithm for the common good.